what is your voice? It took forever to just build up this voice. And now I need to make sure that whatever voice I have going forward is going to be a sustainable one for whatever the unknown future is now.
All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business. Hey, it's Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilient by Design. Today, I'm bringing back a very popular episode. It is an interview that I had with Cynthia Soda of Soda Pop Design, Inc. She's an interior designer with an incredible firm here in Toronto. They do new builds, custom renovations, home furnishings. She has been celebrated in national and international features of magazines and publications. She's been on HGTV, CTV, you name it. This woman is a powerhouse, but more impressive than Cynthia and her design acumen and business acumen is truly what she shares in this episode. If you are a designer who has been struggling with getting your clients to really, let's face it, trust you, you've struggled with clients who micromanage, clients who ask a million questions, you feel exhausted because you just can never get ahead, you're going to like this episode. Cynthia dives into exactly how we can manage our client expectations and get them to trust us. So enjoy this episode with Cynthia. Cynthia Soda. Here we go. Holy heck, this podcast thing is not easy.
No, it's not, but we're in it together.
Guys, Cynthia is awesome. I've known her now for 3 years, I think.
Yeah, 3 years.
Designer also in Toronto.
Well, just north.
North, that's true. You don't live in the city.
No, I don't. I operate out of my home in Stouffville, but I service all over the friggin' place.
Nice. And you do construction as well, right? Because your dad is a contractor.
We just started doing that actually about the same time that we met, because I had my business I'm celebrating 8 years this year. And we started construction because over the years, my clients kept kind of saying to me, I just wish you were handling this from beginning to end. Like, I just wish, why can't you just do it? Why can't you just hire the trades and manage everybody? Like, I want to continue doing this with you. And I guess the longer I started hearing people saying that to me, the more I started thinking, okay, how can we actually do this? So we still operate separately, like Soda Pop Design and Soda Pop Construction are two separate entities. So it's not like it's always just my jobs that they're doing, but at the end of the day, it does give us some semblance of quality control. And the one thing that I don't love about it being the fact that now, I'm in 8 years of my design business. And that's in the first 3 or 4 years of their construction business is all the growing pains again. It's like I started raising a new baby, right? And so with a whole host of new problems that are outside of my comfort zone.
That's awesome though. I mean, that I would have to say that's my biggest pain point in my business is the trades that we work with and controlling the quality because it's hard. We put forth recommendations for contractors because it does work better when we can work with them.
Right.
But they aren't always, how do I say this without offending anyone? I mean, they just aren't always doing things the way that we would do them. And then it becomes a reflection of us, even though it's not our firm. And
even though, because it's like, it's you're overlooking it, or they'll just kind of do, okay, it looks like this, and I'll just put the light like that. It's like, no, why'd you put it in vertically? I drew it horizontally for a reason. They're like, oh, but it'll cast shadows. I'm like, that's not your decision to make.
Yeah.
You put it in the way that we want, like, just little things like that. And it's hard because there's a whole host of different types of egos out there and different and you got to kind of toe that line a little bit between what's gonna
And I think a lot of designers struggle with that, where it's finding the right trades or the people that they can count on that have their back. And it takes time. Like I know I'm still developing those relationships, and I've been in business now for 5 years on my own. But I've been in the industry for over a decade. And so I've done all kinds of projects. I worked on HGTV. I worked with Property Brothers. I worked with Scott McGilvery, and I got to know contractors in that world. And I thought, well, these contractors will be great in my regular business. So, I finished working in television, and I was doing big construction projects, and it was very different ballgame. What people are willing to do for television
and what they're willing to,
and what they're willing to do in the real world is not the same thing.
But I feel like now also we're kind of touching on things that are so interesting because, like you have had that experience. I've had a little bit of the TV experience, not so much like what you've had in terms of working with the HGTV designers and builders that are household names. I think my struggle, because like the only TV experience I had, I worked or I got my first interior design job by doing a reality TV show on HGTV called Design Interns. And I competed with 11 other contestants and then won my first job. Cool. Which was a really cool experience. But, that's the experience that I had. I didn't get to see exactly how much
it's not real.
People are yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's the struggle real, too, going into people's houses and they're like, well, such and such did it on this show, a whole main floor, second floor and basement rental for $70,000. Why can't we do it for that? I'm like, cause they got the fireplace for free and they're this for free and that for free. And the things that they're willing to do and go above and beyond. And even the timelines, none of it is like, I can't make that happen. And I would love to. I feel like that's a goal.
Oh my God. We would all love
construction business work like
reality.
That. Oh God.
And that was my experience. I mean, working in TV was so fun. Like, honestly, my passion lies in television. It always has been. I mean, before I started this career, I was an actor in Vancouver. I was auditioning.
It's so cool.
Little buns off. But that's my passion. I love making television. So when I got the opportunity to work on HGTV, it was awesome because I love that feeling of a community like pulling together to get something done on a tight timeline and everyone has each other's back and you get it done. Yeah. Unfortunately, that is not the way it works in the real world. No. And you're right. The budgets, though I have to say they do try to be accurate, but the problem is a lot, what people don't understand when it comes to reality television, when it comes with renovations is that a lot of people donate product in exchange for publicity. So you'll get hard materials as part of the construction, and then you'll also sometimes get furnishings and lighting. So what happens is at the end, like you can imagine everyone's scrambling. We're just trying to get it done. It's beautiful, amazing. And then at the end of the season, when you're tallying everything up, they're trying to accurately portray a budget to the viewers, but sometimes they miss. And I don't think it's that they're not trying, but I think that ultimately you have to prioritize when you only have so many things to do. And sometimes you miss that all these elements, were included in the budget. And what they only capture is the construction and the labor.
Right. And are they also including interior design services, which are more expensive to people than they would assume if the whole project was done for $70,000, right?
It's too bad. Like, I feel like HGTV has done two things. It's done one thing, it's good for the industry. I'm probably one of the only people to say this, but I recognize that HGTV has actually brought a lot of attention to interior design.
Right. Whether it's good, bad, or otherwise.
It's made people value a beautiful home, right?
Right.
People who maybe otherwise would not.
I'll agree with you there.
The flip side, right? I know I'm the only one who says that.
I'll give you that one.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. The flip side is that it's doing us a disservice because it's making people believe that they can have a magazine-worthy home for a fraction of the price that it really costs.
Right.
And I know the interior design world struggles with living up to those expectations.
Exactly. And that's the one and only struggle that negates the other good side of it, is because as much attention as it's drawn to having a pretty house or whatever it is, people don't seem to realize that there is value in the people that create that, and that you can try to do that yourself. And you may think that you did a good job, and then that makes you happy. And that's fantastic. But, like,
I love how you said you might think you did a good job.
Well, sure. Like,
judgment on the DIYers.
I mean, no, I'm not.
DIYers actually really know what they're doing. I'm like,
some are great.
They should do this for a living.
Yeah. And I actually have that happen on social media sometimes too. I have people reach out and they're using my pictures as an example, and then they upload a picture of how they did it themselves. And I'm like, oh, good for you. Like, cool. Fantastic. That looks really, really cool. But at the end of the day, like, if that's all you're doing and just taking little parts and pieces, that's cool. But if you're going to go and build a new house or completely gut and reno it, it's really hard to get all of that expertise and the years of design understanding and construction understanding that an actual professional can bring to the table. It's a little bit different. Totally. I mean, and I've had other clients actually have reservations about going forward, working together, because they're just worried that I'm going to use good contractors. How weird is that? Right? Like, good contractors, which would mean expensive contractors. Mm-hmm. They don't want to use like the expensive ones. So I'm like, so you want to pay for the service, but then have a shoddy work done after? Like, I can't stand behind that. I can give you the design and let you run with it and you do what you're going to do with it. But I'm not going to recommend people that I know are cheap so that you can get it done
all the time at the office, that people have champagne taste and a big budget.
Or Coca-Cola budget. It's not even alcohol.
There you go. Sorry. We'll take the alcohol out of it. I can't help myself. I'm about to go on my 75-day challenge. So I'm going to drink all the drinks I can drink until I can't drink them anymore.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, people have really high expectations of what they can get. And they want the cheaper contractor, but and we experience this too. They want, why is the finishing quality not there? I'm very disappointed in you, Rebecca. Like, how come the baseboards are like this? And I'm thinking in my head, but I don't say it out loud. Yeah. Well, you went with the guy who was the cheapest. So his trades are less experienced. You can't have it all unless you have money to pay for it all.
I know. And that sounds so bad. Doesn't that sound so bad in your own head too?
But it's just every like aspect of life.
I tell people, okay, this is what I do when I have issues with, or not issues, but when I have that question come up where it's like, oh, but I really want to do this, but what do you think it's going to cost? And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, look it. This is how I'm going to suggest it to you. I'm going to lay all these design suggestions out for you. And however you're going to do them is entirely up to you. But if it were me, I would do nothing until I could do it right. Mm-hmm. That's just how I do it. Like, if you're not going to do it right, why are you bothering? Because then you're just going to end up unhappy still. And then it didn't solve your problem. Now you have a different problem. It's like, I'd rather you just wait, save up, and then get that really cool wallpaper. Like, don't go out and get another can of paint to cover up the paint wall, like the wall that you already don't like. Wait, save up, and then get that really awesome thing. Like,
I think that a lot of business owners, actually, Cynthia, that's a big takeaway, is that you need to stick to your guns. I think as creative entrepreneurs, we're often not valuing our own judgment and experience and talent. And so if this was me, like only 5 years ago, somebody says to me, well, I want to do this. And in my head, I'm thinking, that doesn't make sense. Why would you want to do that? But the unexperienced business person in me thinks, okay, well, I want to make the client happy. So, okay, yeah, sure, I can do that. And I actually have no idea if I can do it. I used to throw out ideas of what things would cost. People would say, I've got about $20,000 to decorate my main floor. And I would say, okay, well, let's work with that. Was I on crack? Like, that is not possible. You can't even do that if you go to IKEA. Part of that is experience, but part of it, I think, is that we need to stand up for ourselves. And I love that you do that, where you say, do it right. And now I've started to do that, where I say, listen, I would rather finish one room fully than to sort of decorate your whole main floor. Let's focus our budget on one room. And then when we have the budget to do the next room, let's do it. But I think it comes down to confidence.
And took a long time, I think, even for me to get to that point, because like you, it was the same. It's just, we're also people pleasers. So at the end of the day, the client's going to be like, oh, I really, really want this. And you're like, okay, well, who am I to disagree? I got to try to make this work. They're going to pay me to do this. So I might as well. And it's like, no, but they've also hired you because they want your opinion. They don't want you to just be a yes man. It's like when you hire a person in your staff and all they do is just agree with you all the time. It's like, right. I mean, I want a little bit of that give and take. Otherwise no one's growing. And I think as a business owner and as a designer, a lot of the times I think learning to say no has been a huge lesson for me, and learning to stand up for my designs and stand up for the suggestions that we make. Cause a lot of the times I found in the past that if I didn't give enough pushback, then I was sorry that I didn't.
Yeah, totally. And that comes with experience, but it comes with confidence. I feel like this is a great time to kind of like pivot the conversation and talk about what we talked about in the first podcast that got deleted, which is just being true to yourself, because I think this kind of segues into that, where when you are, especially a creative, I know as a creative entrepreneur, I think we struggle with standing up for ourselves and our knowledge in what we do, whether we're an artist, a designer, a stager. We know what should be done, and we don't trust ourselves. And then the people who have hired us don't necessarily trust us yet because they don't know what we're about. Right. And what I like about you, Cynthia, is that you're like me. Obviously, we like people who are like ourselves.
Yes. We're so egotistical like that.
We're so egotistical. But no, honestly, is that you are very authentic and true to yourself. And that comes across in everything you do. In your spaces that you design, you're super bold. Like you did a kitchen with purple cabinets.
Yeah, man.
I mean, who the F does that? That's wild and amazing. But also you are unapologetic and you share who you are in your Instagram stories. And I like to think that I'm the same way.
And you share way more. You share way more than I share. You're at the next level where I strive to be, but I'm like, I'm not sure how to get there. I'm like,
take a deep breath.
Yeah, I guess so. Right. Because and that's the thing though. And that's, again, what we kind of have talked about in the past, is then when people are inviting you into their homes, they already feel like they kind of know you because you've put yourself out there. And if people don't want to go bold or they don't want to have, like to me, I don't know, your space has to reflect some sort of personality. And whether you know that it's your personality yet, or you're waiting for me to tell you that this is your personality, which I've actually had clients tell me.
That happens. Like, I love those clients.
Yeah. So they're like, I wasn't this cool. They're like, I wasn't this cool. You made me this cool.
I love that. People who have no idea what they want, you tell them and they're like, that's amazing.
Yeah. I love it. I love this. And that's for me sort of the fun of it. It's almost this like a psychological game too, that we're getting to play with our clients through design, where it's like, I feel like you're a purple person, or I feel like you're this.
Right now, like, everything I see, people who are listening can't see this, but everything I see is pink and purple, by the way.
Right.
You are wearing, I think, a purple top. You have a headband that's pink, and the wallpaper behind you is pink and purple, and there's some purple things on the bed. So
actually, well, that's so I'm in my daughter's room, full disclosure. She turned 10 this year, and we were actually going to change. So that was supposed to be an entirely different wall, and that isn't wallpaper. Each one of those circles that Rebecca is seeing, which people could probably find pictures of in my Instagram, or I might just post another one after so that they know what we're talking about when we actually release this podcast, is each one of those circles was painstakingly done by hand by yours truly. Oh my God, I did every single one. Yeah. Well, you gotta just try something new every day.
I have beautiful stars behind me, but guess what? This was my child's nursery, which I've now in COVID times turned into an office. And those are stickers. They're just wall decals because that's my role.
And that's what I did to my other daughter's nursery, because this was a child and a half ago.
Got it. Yeah. So how many kids do you have? I feel like, we didn't finish. So many things to talk about. Okay. I want us to talk about children and family and struggling and living through this crazy quarantine. Yes. Can we continue to talk about being authentic and how important it is to be yourself? I love that you said that, how people know you. We didn't really touch on
like
that
how
as
they
much.
walk in. Yeah.
Literally, like you said that before, and same has happened to me where I walk into a consultation, which is like the first start of our process, and someone says to me, I feel like I know you already. Which is such a heartwarming feeling. And
Yeah, as soon as they open the door, it's like, oh, I feel like I know you already. Like they're all excited because they've already listened to your stories or saw enough pictures of you on Instagram or Facebook or whatever the heck they're seeing you on. And it's just, for me, it feels kind of heartwarming already. So like they already have that, we've weeded out the people that already maybe won't jive with us, right? So those are the people that will pick up the phone, as we already know that they have some understanding of who we are, and hopefully some of those awkward first moments when you meet somebody are essentially swept under the rug. Like they don't actually even happen because they know who you are.
So we've talked about them understanding us, and I think it comes down to trust. They trust you, but like, what is it specifically that you're doing, which I think I'm also doing, but what is it that you're doing to put yourself out there so that they do know who you are in a consultation?
I think a lot of it, I mean, for me, for the longest time, because I was kind of nervous to start posting videos. Like I look up to you and how you do your Instagram stories in terms of just kind of sharing almost everything. Like you're in your pajamas sometimes and you're just chatting on the phone and you're like, hey guys, I'm laying in my bed.
Yep. I do. I love my jammies.
It's just kind of, it's great. So I don't know if I'm there quite yet.
Nobody is. Trust me. Nobody's there.
And I feel like, and it's not, and I don't judge. Like I said, I kind of look up to it and I'm like, wow, like, I don't know if I can get to that level. Maybe one day, or maybe every now and again, but I don't know. But
you don't have to. That's the thing.
Right. I felt like for me, it was my work. A lot of the times I would just post a picture, like you just said, the purple kitchen, for example, that stayed in your mind, because to me, that's a personality. Like that kitchen has its own personality, and I sent that into the world, and then that attracts those kind of daredevils, I guess, back towards me, right? A little bit. It's kind of, for the longest time, I just trusted in my work speaking for itself. And I feel like now with COVID, we also have to, and we touched on this again before, but it was about having a different voice now, right? Like what is your voice? It took forever to just build up this voice. And now I need to make sure that whatever voice I have going forward is going to be a sustainable one for whatever the unknown future is now.
Mm-hmm. I did a podcast actually recently about something similar to that, which is based on this book called The Blue Ocean Strategy. Have you heard of it?
No, but I should read it, I think.
Look it up. It's a good one. It's not an easy read. I will not lie. It's very academic, but it is one of the top books in the business world. And it talks about the idea of how do you differentiate yourself from everybody else in your field. And you know, they use examples of, let's say, Uber, Apple, those type of companies where they really thought outside the box. And it asks you to create, I won't go into the whole thing, but it asks you to create sort of a graph where it's, here's the average, let's say for us, an interior design business and what they do. And here's where I'm at. And where do those meet? Where are you similar? And where do you diverge? And where are you different? So for example, for me, I really learned that I was quite passionate about sustainability and wellness in the home. And I don't think the average interior design firm really is paying attention to that or talking about it. So that for me was a differentiator. There are a lot of other items, but you know, it's interesting because I feel like this is such a good time. Like now we're in quarantine. I know it's awful, but it's also kind of a blessing for so many of us business owners to sit down, reflect on what matters to us. Who are we? What are we putting out into the world? And how does that make us different? So how is that going to attract the right client moving forward? Whether it's me being sustainable in my design choices, and making people aware of that, because I realized I wasn't talking about this thing that was so integral to my business, right? And so putting it out there. So for you, it's maybe like taking, I don't know, like, you know your business better than I do, but from what I see on the outside is you're taking risks. You're showing your personality in the space. Like your spaces really reflect your customers or your personality. And I think that finding that differentiator and taking the time to make sure that you're not just picking something that you think is going to resonate. It's coming down to, I think as a creative entrepreneur too, it's about us. It really is. It's about you. It's like Cynthia Soda, like the name of your company is Soda Pop Design. Like it's you. So what is it about you that people are attracted to you, and how do you amplify that and put that out into the world? For
and
me,
I think
pajamas. Apparently. Free pajamas to every client.
Love it. I love it. You're going to have an influx now. Oh, I want pajamas.
I'm waiting for them. They haven't arrived yet. I got to get I need a podcast sponsor that just does jammies.
Jammies. Exactly. Oh God, I love it.
Ooh, Hatley. I like Hatley pajamas.
Oh, that would be nice. There you go. I feel like it's interesting that you say that too, because as a business owner, when you're so stuck working in your business, you aren't really thinking about your business on the outside too much. I mean, for me, I always am. Like, I always have something going on in the back of my mind where I'm like, okay, how's this going to work? How's this going to portray? What's this going to do? Da, 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 da. Like, I do think about it, but it's hard for me unless I really, really focus on it to sit down and think about what makes me different. I guess, because like at the end of the day, if I can say, oh, my spaces have personality, or they're bold, or they're not, or whatever it is, it's like, well, how's that very different? Like, to me, I kind of squash it sometimes. I'm like, well, that's not good enough. It's almost like I kind of feel like I have to come up with something else that's good enough or reinvent it. And I'm overthinking it. It's like I overthink that whole process a little bit. I don't know.
I think that as women, unfortunately, but it's true. I think as women, we're so hard on ourselves. I know I am. I have designer friends. I have this one designer friend. I won't name her right now, but she says to me, like, literally, I would say once a month, Rebecca, you need to stop being so hard on yourself. And I don't know if it's just what we need to do to propel ourselves forward in such a competitive world. It's a huge society cultural problem.
And it's so hard not to compare, right? Like, you don't want to compare, but it's so hard not to compare.
And I think so when it comes back to the differentiator, it's not just one thing. So that's what I'll say about this blue ocean strategy. It's finding however many, and for me, it ended up being 4 pillars that were made us different. So it's never going to be one thing. And I like that you said that feeling like you need to come up with the most ultimate creative, out of the box, reinvent something. You don't have to. You really don't have to. It's okay if a couple of your differentiators are the same as other companies. Like, we follow the Business of Design 15-step process to a T, have forever. And it's amazing. And so I know there's other companies that do that, but those companies aren't also sustainable, also friendly, also whatever the things are that are mine.
Right.
And so I think you're right. I think we get kind of caught up, even with me naming my podcast. You get so caught up in.
I still think you should do, hey.
hey. But you get so caught up in being like having to be absolute best. And it's not that makes it the best. It's the content. Yeah. Actual service that you're delivering.
Right. And I think that's the other thing too, is I was listening to another just business CEU credit, because I'm always looking for my continuing education credits. And this one was really interesting to me because they were talking about how he just said one simple thing. And it was like, you should put down that you're friendly, like in your business strategy or whatever, because sometimes the friendliest people are the best business people. You shouldn't overlook that. And it's like, oh, really? Just to have somebody kind of tell you that the simplest thing about you can be the thing that differentiates you, or the difference maker is, I don't know. I guess that's why it's like we put so much pressure on ourselves. And because we are so such sensitive, service-oriented, just people that like people pleasers, essentially at the end of the day, it kind of, I feel like we tend to overthink things. Have you ever had the experience where you've talked to people and then you've said something or whatever, and then you think about it for days? I have had that happen where it's like I replay it. I like replay it every day ad nauseum. And I'm like, okay, it's over, Cynthia. It's fine. Like, nothing happened. We can move on.
All the time. My husband's like, Rebecca, like, how is this? Like, let it go.
Still your problem. Yeah.
It's just business, or it's just whatever.
And I have my husband that helps me with that actually too. He's like the no bullshit, like, Zen, honestly, some people it's just like this. Don't overthink it. or they just write a shitty email to you, or the email starts, so I'm swearing.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. See how authentic I am? I said the SH word.
Word.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like, where's I going with that? Just again, I'll interpret somebody's email where they said something and I'm like, what do they mean by that? It's going to be one simple line. What does that even mean? And I'm replaying it and it's making me feel all kinds of gross inside until then I finally talk to that person and they're seeming okay. And I'm like, well, why'd you have to be such a dick over email?
It literally happened to me last week. I got the email. I was so anxious. My anxiety was like out of control. God. And we're home and there's all these things going on. I was got to do Joseph's online school and I got to be on the computer at 9:30. And I was like, Chris, you just have to do it. I've got this email from my client and I think they're so like upset about this thing. And I was like next level.
Yeah.
And so I get on the phone with the client. We talk it out afterwards. I'm like, oh yeah, that was fine. Everything's great. And my husband was like, seriously, what the fuck? Like you just put me through the gauntlet and everything was fine. And you're right. We create these, and it comes down, I think, to our own insecurities. It's me thinking I'm not delivering. And so I read the email and I think they think I'm not delivering. I already think I'm not delivering and holy shoot, this is not.
Yeah.
This is a disaster.
Exactly.
Business. I don't know what I'm doing. I quit.
Yeah, exactly. It's like end of the world, next level. They're disappointed with something and I don't know how to fix it. And it's just, I spiral like crazy. My husband will be the first person to attest to that and be like, Sen, honestly, like some people are just dicks, or they just don't know how to write an email, or they don't mean it like that. And they just like write the first thing that comes to their mind and they're not thinking about it half as much as you're thinking about it, or a quarter as much as you're even thinking
Which
about
is
it.
why I think it's so important as women, especially, to have these conversations. And that's why I think these podcasts are wonderful, because you can see that you're not alone. Yeah. Other people like you and I are going through the same spiral in our head. And it doesn't make you bad at what you do. It's just part of the job and you just have to be able to move on from it.
Yeah. And I think this pandemic is definitely an equalizer of sorts, right? Doesn't matter if you, what type of client you have or how many followers that you have on social media or whatever it is, every single one of us is now on the same level. Like we're all dealing with the same problems. We're all dealing on different versions of the same problems. And I think when I started this business, and I've talked openly about this in the past, I felt a lot of the times like I was on an island. It was like, how the hell am I going to do this? And I felt even graduating school, nobody really wanted to share how much they were making when they started their first job or whatever, where for me, I'm an open book. Like ask me, I'll tell you. That's just the way that I've always been. So when I get resistance back from anybody, like for the longest time, I felt like interior design was the most uppity industry ever. It was like, A, they never feed us at these social gatherings, man. Like they got crap food. And B, I'm like,
you gotta come to my designer meetups once the world reopens, because the last one there was good food and good booze. I know you don't drink, but there was good food too.
Yeah, that's right.
I agree, and that's why I started this. This is how this whole thing started for me. It was doing designer meetups because I wanted to bring people together, and I know how hard it is. And when I started, it was, oh my God, I felt like such an outsider.
Me too.
Right? Even though I had talent that was intrinsic, there was this whole level of, and I still feel that in so many ways, that I am not accepted. I don't come from the right upbringing. I don't have the right clients. I'm not doing whatever it is. I'm too honest and authentic. And that has been,
how dare you?
How dare me for being myself? But shit, honestly, I swear before, so it's
look, now we're even. Yay!
But honestly, it is crazy how your mind can play freaking tricks on you.
Yeah, you can be your own worst critic. And even like we wanted to talk about growing a family and building your business at the same time. Like you have 2 little ones. And you're downtown. I'm uptown, like the country bumpkin. I'm out of town. And I've got my 4 little ones. And then because I didn't have enough crazy going on, we got a puppy right before Christmas.
Yeah, that's crazy. I could have told you that because I got a puppy before I had kids. Don't do that. Puppies, I love them, but they're a lot of freaking work.
Yeah, it's a lot of freaking work. And we didn't just get a little puppy. Like, we got a lab. So she's been growing fast. They're very, and she's so smart. She's so smart, but she's a counter surfer and she's obsessed with food.
Don't get a smart dog. I learned my lesson. Don't get a dumb dog. They listen. They don't even know why they're listening. They just listen. Trust me, don't get a smart dog.
I didn't know she was going to be so smart when I got her. And
that's fair.
Like, damn it.
Before we wrap this up, I feel like we touched on it and I know everybody wants to hear about it, is social media and what's happening right now. We're in lockdown and how is it affecting you? Because I know that it's really affected me more than I expected because everyone's online. Yeah. So when you're trying to run a business and sort of navigate through these difficult times, how is, let's say, Instagram, Facebook, how is that affecting you mentally and your business? I just feel like we should talk about that for a few minutes.
I feel like I fall into the category of person who really, really probably shouldn't go on social media very often, like, because I'm the type of person that takes everything kind of seriously, or not seriously, but I'll take things personally. I fall into that comparison trap very, very quickly when I'm on social media. So if I go on, most of the time I'm going on just to do what I have to do for my business and then carry on, because and then I'll get into my own head. So if I start comparing or start seeing something that's stressing me out and like, oh my God, they're doing this and I should maybe be doing that. We touched on before, like when we were chatting about how there are things that we might feel like we should be doing or things that we're actually passionate about and want to pour our hearts into. And I never want to fall into the trap of like, okay, so-and-so is doing this, so I should be doing that. Because then I feel like those things aren't really going to be successful for me. And I don't know. I feel like right now I'm finding the struggle mostly with social media and finding my voice, and that voice that's going to be heard and resonate with people in this new world that we're living in right now.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Like, have you found kind of positive or negative?
Mostly, to be honest, mostly negative.
Right. Not awful.
If we're being honest, which is the whole point of this.
Yes.
I had a really bad week last week. I was really down in the dumps. I got a migraine. It was my time of the month and I was just down. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I would fire up social media and all I did was compare or see others that were doing the virtual consultations and they were killing it, or someone who was featured in Architectural Digest and they're killing it. Right. Someone who is doing God knows what, something with their family, and I'm like not killing it. Mm-hmm. And it really affected me. And I think that I've tried to cut back on my consumption because sure, it would be easy to say, don't let it like roll off your shoulder. Don't let it affect you. I can't, that's not who I am. It affects me like it does. Right. And so I'm trying to get a little bit better at my consumption of social media. I see things like everyone's posting on how to make a mask. But I'm not posting. It's like, shoot, why am I not posting on how to make a mask? Why am I not doing something to help? Am I
insensitive? And yeah, exactly. I'm not helping the world at all in what I'm doing. But it's like, oh God.
I don't want to. And I talked about this last night in our Zoom call. It's like, I could do that, but it wouldn't be authentic to who I am. Mm-hmm. Like, sure, if I need to make a mask, I can make a freaking mask. But I'm not making a mask because it's just, I don't know. It sounds awful to say. And it's not that I don't care and I don't want to support and I don't want to help. And I will donate all the fabric. I will do all that I can do. But I see people doing things like that. And I think, like, back to what we were saying before, we're so hard on ourselves. I'm thinking I am lesser than. I am not a good enough human because right now I'm focused on these other things. Yeah. And so I've found social media to be
a downward spiral.
Though it's powerful and I think it will help us with our businesses to grow out of this. Yeah, it's a downward spiral.
And then I feel like to add on to that, once you see that and then you feel lesser than, then you end up acting almost lesser. Like your whole day ends up being
with
screwed.
your family.
So I'm impatient with my kids or my husband or like the dog or whatever it is that's going on. And it just totally, it takes over my whole entire mind, and it takes me so long to just shake it off. Like I have to be like, okay, it's fine. It's fine. Like, Cynthia, let this go. Like, honest to God, just take a breath and relax. And I don't know. I sound so extra.
No, but you and I love this because I know that I feel the exact same way, which means every single person
probably does.
It's the exact same. It's crazy. And at a time where mental health is so important, it's scary. People are taking their lives at a time when they need support, but they can't get it because they are alone in their apartment, in their home.
Actually trapped.
And so it's really important that we have this conversation and we talk about how it's affecting us. Because if it's affecting you and I, imagine how it's affecting somebody who's already battling with depression, already battling with their self-worth.
I actually talked about this a little bit, even with my kids, just to the level of them being so happy that they're home from school. And when they started this week, they started their learning at home, and then they're talking in the school, like Google Classroom streams with all of their friends. And they're not understanding why some kids aren't really having the great time and they want to go back to school. And I'm like, well, not everybody's life at home is as great as yours is. Like, not everybody is happy to be spending so much time with their parents. Maybe their parents are not as much fun, right? We can just
or maybe they don't even have siblings.
Or they don't, they don't have siblings. And so they're so bored. Like, they're just so bored. I actually have that with my nephew. He's at home with his mom and they live with my parents. So at least there's 4 of them at home, including him, but he's 5 years old. And so he wants to like play with his cousins who have become his family, right? My kids are his brothers and sisters. It's like, he just doesn't, and they don't understand, like, why can't I just give him a hug? Or, they don't get it right now. And I don't know. It just,
I think that like what I've been trying to do is just not really consuming and not logging on and just searching for the people that I know make me feel good and on Instagram. I don't, if I see someone has a story, I'll be completely honest. If I go and I'm always checking my own story, like, what are the reactions? Who responded to my question sticker? But if I see somebody pop up in my stories and I'm like, oh, I feel like if I tap on that, I'm going to feel lesser than. Yeah. I don't tap on it. Yeah. You have to recognize within yourself, it's not going to help you move your needle. You're not going to get further ahead if you fall into the trap of seeing what everyone else is doing, especially those people that everybody has that. Everybody has those people, a handful of people that you look up to, yes. And do you learn from them? Yes. But do you also unfairly compare yourself to them? 100%.
Always, yeah.
And you have to just not look at their feed. I know some people say you could block them. I feel like that's extreme.
Yeah, it's a little extreme for me too.
I don't want to do that. But you just need to be really cognizant, I think, in this time of what you're consuming when it comes to social.
Well, because it leads you down a rabbit hole essentially. And you don't want to be down that rabbit hole of emptiness, of feeling like you can't accomplish this. Like, it's bad enough this week. I have, so my 3 older ones, my 10-year-old now, 7 and 5-year-old, soon to be 8 and 6-year-olds, are all in school and they're all in different grades and they all have different level. Like, the kindergarten kid, I would think, had the least amount, but no, he does not. He has like,
I know. I have a kid in kindergarten. Oh my God. I've printed like 1,000 pages.
I know. This is really bad.
But it's great because then it's like, it's directed. I don't have to come up with something. So
exactly. But at the same time, my kids they'll open it up and they'll just kind of stare at it until I'm over their shoulder helping them. So I'm helping this one, I'm helping that one, I'm helping this one. And then I'm barely doing anything. And that's where, again, relying on your team and having some kind of a system in place that your team has kind of grown to follow and can follow from home has been very, very beneficial. But yeah, I feel guilty though. Even in that case, I feel guilty that I'm not working on or in my business as much as I was before this because there aren't enough hours in a day.
I know. Or
and that's
I
kind of
feel
what it breaks down
guilty
to for me.
that I'm not doing enough exercises with my son because I opt to work. I'm like, mommy's going to work right now. Mommy has a call. I have to do these things. And so I'm not doing as many work activities. I feel like I'm at the opposite end with you. I'm like, I am not doing all the activities that the school has put out that I'm sure every other parent is doing because I'm trying to run a full-time business at the exact same time.
And that's what the thing is too, that I find myself, I trap myself a little bit too, because anything that I want to do or that I endeavor to do, I feel like I have to give that thing 100%. If it's helping my kids through school, then I am trying to give that 100%, while also trying to give my business 100%, while also trying to like make sure that everybody has a really good lunch and a really good dinner. And while and it's exhausting, and it almost gets to the point where everything gets a little like 33% here and 33% there. It's like you split yourself out so many different ways that you start to wear yourself really, really thin. And then that's where again,
you can do it all. You just can't do it all at once.
Right. Exactly. And that's the thing, is trying to find, I think it's going to take some time, especially if the kids don't go back to school, which I'm assuming is going to be the case. And we are doing this all the way through till whenever in June or July. We're just going to have to keep going through these growing pains and trying to navigate or move with the water as much as possible and try not to be so hard on ourselves, which is almost impossible for people like us.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's what it all comes down to. We need to stop being so hard on ourselves. Recognize that, we're doing a great job. Keep doing what we're doing. I lost the video. What the heck happened? Oh my God.
You're still good. I still see you.
See you. We need to just give ourselves some grace and know that, it's not going to be like this forever.
No.
But we have to do what we can do with what we've got.
I kind of am wondering, do you feel like, I know that we all talk about, this is really going to change the world as we know it, and da, 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 da. Do you feel like it's really going to change that much? Or is there a part of you, like there is, full disclosure, a part of me that thinks that it'll make a difference for a tiny little bit, and then everybody's going to go back to doing the exact same thing that they did before all of this?
I think it depends on how long it lasts. And I think we can't predict that. So I think if it only lasts till the summer, I agree with you. I think there'll be a blip. The economy is going to be in really bad shape. Right. And so that will affect us.
Yes.
Maybe people might be a little bit less in each other's space, but I don't foresee it changing much. However, if this goes on longer, if this goes into the next school year, it might change things.
Yeah. And I feel like trying to think about what those things actually are. Like if you looked at a picture, my husband just showed me today a picture of Los Angeles last year and Los Angeles this year. It's like smog last year and clear skies this year. It's like, how quick does nature take over, right? That it just really, like the earth, everything wants to breathe. And we just have to let it breathe.
I said to my husband, because I'm an environmentalist, I said to him, I said, this is Mother Nature saying, fuck you. I'm
go to your room.
Fixing things.
She's like, go to your room until I figure out what to do with you.
Has anybody else actually noticed how many earthquakes we've had in the last 6 weeks? No one's noticing it.
No.
There has been an earthquake in every single continent over the last month and a half. And it's been shadowed by the fact that there's this coronavirus.
Right.
I legitimately believe in my core that the earth is like not happy with us. And
there are environmental
trying
checks
to shake us back.
It's like there are environmental checks for sure. But it's funny, like you see these videos of England and the sheep and goats are walking in the streets, and there's like all sorts of things just happening. It's like, it's
a wake up call. I think it's a wake up call.
It's not just about us, right? Like that's what it is. Like we really have to start thinking and caring about things outside of our own bubbles.
I feel like this is a great place to end this podcast because
we could go on forever.
We've done the whole circuit. We'll do this again, obviously. We'll do this like hopefully post COVID times if that happens.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I think that the biggest takeaway from all of this is we need to just be true to ourselves, have some grace right? To not be so hard on ourselves.
Give ourselves some room to breathe and grow.
Yeah.
And accept that things will probably be a little different and we might not know exactly how that is, and that's okay. And likely if we're looking at other people and they look like they have it all together, they probably feel the exact same way.
They don't.
Right.
They don't. So I think, and as a business, I think this is an opportunity right now to really start to differentiate yourself and find a way to come out the other end.
Mm-hmm. Whatever business you're in, whatever it is. Yeah. Everything right now, like it's leveled the playing field in our industry. And I think it's leveled the playing field just across the board for everything. Totally. Everybody's in the same boat.
I love that. Leveled the playing field. Someone said that to me yesterday, where people who you think are ahead, it's like, no, we're now all basically at the same place. And now's a great time to experiment.
Right.
Try a virtual consultation. Hey, heck, if no one hires you, honestly, I said this last night, everybody is watching, but nobody cares. Mm-hmm. Everyone is watching. We're all watching. We're on social media. We're doing all the things, but no one really cares what you're doing because everyone is so focused more than ever on themselves.
Right.
It's a great time to experiment.
They're all looking inside right now. And that's a good thing, I think, for most people.
Yeah. Thanks, girl. This has been really great.
Thank you. This is awesome.
Okay, where can people find you? Tell us all the socials.
So they can find me on Instagram at Soda Pop. I have Facebook at Soda Pop Design Inc. And if you have questions for me or want to reach out about what else we could talk about or what you're interested in knowing about or what you would want me to ask Rebecca next time I have her on my show and she has me on hers, you can message me at info@sodapopdesign.ca or DM me again at csodapop on Instagram. And Rebecca, how can people find you?
Instagram is my jam. That's my favorite place to be. I live there every day at Rebecca Hay Designs. That's where you can find me. You can DM me. You can watch my stories. You can judge. You can do whatever the heck. I'm there.
It sounds good. Well, awesome. Thank you. This is awesome for me too. I love it.
Stay safe and healthy. And
you too.
Happy homeschooling.
Yeah, you too.